Hello, everybody, and welcome for the event named Diversity, Equity and Inclusion in the Central and Eastern Europe in the 21st century. We're going to be talking about challenges and solutions. And this event is part of the ALBA Network webinar series on region-specific issues. My name is Zeljka Krsnik, and I'm member of ALBA Network Board of Directors. And together with Professor Dora Reglodi, who is ALBA ambassador, but also FENS Secretary General, will moderate this panel discussion. Importantly, last 10 minutes of the panel, the audience will be able to participate by asking questions, so please use a Q&A box. Now, before I introduce our panelists, I will briefly introduce an ALBA network, our mission and ALBA declaration. As you might know, ALBA network was established 3 years ago on Carmen Sandy initiative to address persisting inequities in academia around the world. Therefore, our mission is to share best practices to counteract bias, to award outstanding contributions to science and diversity, to enable networking and mentoring opportunities, and to provide career development support of members of underrepresented groups. Our activities are related to advocacy, building awareness, visibility and recognition, and professional development. Importantly, at the beginning of this year, ALBA Network launched Declaration on Equity and Inclusion that is an important resource for evidence-based actions that both individuals but also institutions can implement to promote equity and inclusivity. Please note that declaration is focused on implicit bias and workplace culture, so feel free to read it and sign it. Our panel today is part of webinar series on region-specific issues that was previously successfully done in Latin America, in India, in East and Southeast Asia. Importantly, I want to thank to our founding partners that are FENS.
Global value circle.
Supporting partner is a Landbeck Foundation. Also, as you can see, we collaborate with multiple organizations and we sincerely appreciate their support. So please feel free to join us by becoming ALBA Network member, and thank you in advance for that. Now, let us start with the panel. I'm very happy to introduce 7 amazing panelists who will share with us their inspiring stories. With us are here Pranav Joshi from University Hospital Bonn in Germany, Rea Klanšek, founder of Neuro Bootcamp in Slovenia, Aiste Langvenit, currently in France, but originally from Lithuania, Lei Zhang at the University of Vienna in Austria, Maria Bankieri from the Nensky Institute of Experimental Biology in Poland, who unfortunately couldn't join us at the moment. Maybe she will join us later. Then Michael Olwatosin Gabriel from University of Warsaw in Poland, and Stephanie Lisette Roskauer-Peña from Charles University Medical Faculty in Pilsen, Czech Republic. Thank you all for accepting our invitation. And my first question to all of you is following. Can you please briefly tell us your story? What was your motivation to relocate to Eastern or Central Europe or move out of it? And what benefits and challenges did you experience? Pranav, can we start with you?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for introducing me. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the ALBA Network and the organizers of FENS Regional Meeting for providing a forum of discussion of this complex and fascinating issue. So I pursued my bachelor's and master's degree in India and I worked as a research assistant in one of the prestigious research institute in India. During this period, I was looking for a suitable PhD position, both in India as well as abroad. After a rigorous application process, I received acceptance from 6 different institutions. It was a difficult journey, but it was also a valuable learning experience for me. Among the 6 accepted positions, I chose Germany for several reasons. It is located in the heart of Europe and is very well connected with the public transportation. It is a great place to live. It has its own culture, history, free education, and the social security policies. And it is also well known for research and the technological advancement. My transition from India to Germany was a difficult one, starting with the time-consuming visa application procedure. Aside from that, it was also challenging to travel around the world where the culture, food, people, all the administrative system, language, and livelihood, and also the beliefs are different. The struggle was real. Getting up early in the morning during the winter, as well as the low sunlight, unpredictability of weather and people's mood, lack of integration in the early days, and most importantly, trying to understand and learn the administrative culture. I learned, and I'm still learning this, as well as I'm adjusting to the difficulties, and the differences between the countries while focusing solely on one goal, that is obtaining a PhD here. In my opinion, and also the topic of discussion today, the main issue that the people face after moving to the European country is a lack of integration or a sense of belonging. Out of curiosity, I attended 2 workshops on intercultural training. Surprisingly, majority of the attendees were not native Europeans. Traveling to the other countries is already a big challenge because it requires people to leave their own comforts, home, family, and prove that they have the ability to travel across the ocean and the countries after competing with the other candidates. I believe that the native Europeans also should attend such kind of workshops as a form of a mutual respect in order to understand how difficult it is for a foreigner. Language is also one of the important reasons for lack of integration. Learning a language definitely helps, for the day-to-day life. But even after learning a language, so what is the likelihood that the people or the individual will be integrated? This is still an unanswered question. So far, my experience of relocating to Europe has been wonderful because it has provided me with a new perspective on the world and the people, an understanding of a new culture, an opportunity to visit new places and the people, and ultimately a sense of happiness earned to the learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav. That is a very nice story. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Area, can you please tell us your story?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be part of this discussion, and I agree with a lot of what Pranav said. I'm a Slovenian, but I was raised in the US, and during Corona, I actually found an opportunity to work in applied neuroscience in Slovenia, which was part of the reason that I relocated, even though before I worked in AI and contextual AI tools. There is definitely the positive side of being in Slovenia is that we have a lot of brilliant innovators here and a lot of brilliant researchers. The community and the network is quite strong within Slovenia. But as Pranav said, there is definitely a challenge of diversity and of actually letting international people in and connecting with international people, both within Slovenia, but also outside. And I think that's a huge problem and a critical issue that we need to solve because it's limiting our potential both within private and public sectors within neuroscience. So I come from a business background, for example, and I worked in a company that does applied neuroscience. I was the first woman, but I was, also in a team that was pretty much all Slovene. We had, I think, 2 outside consultants that were from a different country, but we definitely lacked a more perspective. And in the private sector, it's very critical because we're not just doing research, we're creating products for people based on neuroscience. And even though before it was mainly medical focused, now it's going to consumer focus. And we need to have more people in the conversation to talk about what this technology is going to do, who is it going to be for, how can we include more people in the discussion about the ethics behind it, because there are very huge ethical concerns. So definitely agree with Pranav, and I think that things like ALBA, organizations like ALBA, and conferences like these are really important to talk about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ria. Great story. We will be happy to hear from you later on your tips on your experience as a only woman in a STEM company. Thank you. Aiste, can you please?
Hi, I'm Aiste. So I moved in inverse direction as Ria. So I moved from Lithuania, which is Eastern or Northern, as you like to say, Europe, to France. My story is a bit of an accident. I wasn't planning and hoping to emigrate from Lithuania at all, but I'm a medical doctor, and I always wanted to combine research and medicine in my practice. And I went on Erasmus during my training. I went actually on two Erasmuses, one to Italy, one to France. And there I found out that I could actually do research while being a doctor, which is not the case in Lithuania, and you have to actually choose or divide your time. And here they have integrated positions that combine medical and research activities. For example, my week is divided in 2 equal parts, and I'm paid by university and by hospital. And that I found fascinating and convenient for me as a junior researcher that wants to combine two things. So this is one of the things that maybe Lithuania and other countries could think if to attract more clinician researchers, most notably, because it's the case for us that we are looking for positions where we can combine both, and that's not easy to find, at least currently in Lithuania. My challenges was, of course, language, since I'm not only a researcher, but also a clinician. So I had to learn French very quickly. And that includes, of course, culture barrier. But that works two ways. Since I was here on Erasmus during my training, then I came back to Lithuania to finish my training. And then I was invited to come back here. So I experienced this culture shock when coming here, but then I was in Lithuania for that 1 year. That was also the case. So I guess when you're moving around, you're never completely yourself. You're dividing yourself, and it's always a bit hard because you change sometimes faster than the environment that you left or you are coming to.
Thank you so much, Aiste. Great story. And I'm happy to hear that you have a very positive experience in France. And I hope your colleagues in Lithuania can basically learn some of these good practices, right? Lei Zhang from University of Vienna is our next panelist.
So hi, thank you for having me, and many thanks to the ALBA network. So we are here talking about diversity, and I actually consider my academic experience already rather diverse. So I'm originally from China and did my bachelor study in China. After that, I came to Europe, first the south to Spain and for my master's, and then I moved to Germany to complete my PhD in cognitive computational neuroscience. And then since like 2 years ago, 2019, 2.5, and I'm a postdoc at the University of Vienna. So I relocated to my current position here in Austria because during my PhD, I was interested in the interplay between direct learning and social learning and the neural mechanisms. And I hoped to extend this line of research more into the social domain. And then the group here in Vienna happens to be a reputable lab. So then I could pursue the research agenda and contribute my unique skill set. And so relocating through different countries, it's kind of two sides of the same coin, I guess, and as mentioned by other people as well. And so for one, I think it is obviously beneficial because through such diversity, and I could experience different cultures and working styles, both of which are highly helpful when I hopefully establish my own lab in the future. And on the other hand, the downside is perhaps each time I will need to readjust myself into a new country and also to learn how things are working both inside and outside the lab. And I think for me, it was particularly challenging when I first moved from China to Europe to Spain. So when I encountered, I guess, the biggest culture shock in my life, because there is a remarkable difference between East and West in terms of doing research and also language, people, culture, also as mentioned by other people. And then later moving to Germany and then Austria, it was much easier and smoother. And I've been like embracing and enjoying all of the opportunities since then. And I'm happy to talk about that later during discussion.
Thank you so much, Leif, for sharing your story. It's a great story. Now, our next panelist is Michael Owatosen Gabriel from University of Warsaw in Poland.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I am originally from Nigeria. I had my master's degree in Nigeria, my bachelor's and master's degree. And I first moved into Europe in, I think, that was about September, October of 2018, when I came to Vienna for just a short research stay. I had this desire to increase my skills and career prospects and the likes. And so I decided to apply for funding, which I got. And I joined a very inspiring research team. They are very inspiring because the team was made up of people from diverse cultural backgrounds, people from different parts of the world. So I was able to learn with less difficulty because they could predict some of the challenges I would face, before I faced them. And so they would offer their own advice on how I could, navigate my way around those challenges. And I think another beautiful part is that I could get first-hand information based on their own experiences too, not just assumptions and probabilities. They really gave me first-hand information. So the team was very nice and welcoming, friendly. And I was very happy to be in Europe because I was also learning, because I came to learn research skills and I was learning those skills and I was growing, But when I looked at the whole experience, I decided to undertake my PhD here in Europe, and that was when I moved from Vienna to Warsaw. And you would guess, right, that moving from a language to another language, so I had to start finding how to survive, because sometimes you would have to interpret some documents and you would need somebody to interpret them. You would have to go to places that you might need somebody to would I say, go with you and help you. So it was quite challenging. And apart from language, the cultural shock generally hit me, because I had this based on my culture. I was always greeting people. When I get to any enclosed space, I would greet, and sometimes I don't get response. And sometimes I anticipate that I would be greeted and I would eventually not be greeted. So I was beginning to think, is it disrespect or something? But I realized that people had more respect for privacy. And I was able to understand the culture of the people different from mine. So this, alongside some of the other challenges others have mentioned, have been my challenges, also the tedious and lengthy process of visa application and extension of stay and the rest. So this has been my challenges, but at least I've been able to survive because of the support I've been getting from my colleagues, my supervisors, and even the institution as a whole. And I would really talk about that when as we proceed in the program.
Great, I really look forward to that. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Our next panelist will tell us her story is Stephanie Lizette Proskauer Peña from medical faculty in Pilsen, Czech Republic. Stephanie?
Hi, thank you. Well, it's very interesting to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And well, yeah, I am a medical doctor from Mexico. I graduated there. And as I was a graduate student, I also looked for some opportunities to continue my postgraduate education in research because I've been interested in research since I'm a medical student. And as Aiste said, like in Mexico, we do a lot of combination of research and clinical side. So but then I opted for the Czech Republic for personal reasons. And first I entered the job market, and then 6 months later I started my PhD studies in the same research group where I was working on. And well, it's in the Laboratory of Experimental Neurophysiology from Karel Jesek, and yeah, it has been a great experience. In general, yeah, as everyone has mentioned, the adaptation to any new experience is always challenging. And in my case was also the culture, also the language, and the winter. I came like close to the winter season, and but well, I was like, okay, I need to do something. I started in the university an intensive course of the Czech language, because otherwise I wouldn't maybe not survive, but you know, like one needs that also to understand the culture and adapt to the system and the society. So as well, I tried to adapt as much as possible to the society in general. In the university, they were always so nice, always so open to me. But yeah, I did encounter several occasions some challenges in the society. The benefit was that the Charles University is doing a lot for welcoming international students. So in my case, in the biomedical center was a new a new infrastructure, and they wanted to attract more international people. So of course, was not always easy. I also did some bad experiences, but I guess the good experiences have more weight. You could see maybe the society I think now it has improved, was maybe not so open to foreigners. And that maybe also puts the brakes on some foreigners to say, okay, should I go there or not? And because maybe we have had the opportunity to come to Europe, and we say like, okay, it's Europe, you know, what can be different from Germany or from France to the Eastern countries? But it is a difference. But well, in general, as I said, adapting to the culture, to the language, and understanding more the dynamics of the society had helped me a lot. In general, I might say that was hard sometimes, but at the end, I found this experience in the Czech Republic very, very enriching. And currently, I am applying for a new position as a clinician in Germany, and as well, this adaptation to a new country, to a new language, it comes with its challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, so much. It's a great story, and I look forward to hear more from you. Right now, I would like to ask you an important question, because obviously all of you have different challenges, but also good experience relocating in Eastern Europe. So in your view, can you tell us what needs to be done on the individual, institutional, society level in order to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in Eastern and Central Europe? Because obviously we have a lot of work to be done. Can we start again with Pranav, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's also a very important and very interesting question. So the diversity, according to the definition, is a quantitative representation of the differences in the dimensions such as the disability, gender, ethnic, cultural, migrational background, socio-economic background, sexuality, age, educational background, and the religious background, and so on. So this has been a hot topic in the discussion since last decade, when the internalization of higher education institutions introduce a cultural diversity into the debate. When with the increased influx of refugees in 2015 and 16, the topic became more urgent, prompting higher education institutions across Europe to develop concrete support actions. So equity, by definition, on the other hand, is about recognizing the historical and the current realities of the discrimination that the people experience. In other words, it is about providing a need-based assistance in terms of equal access, opportunity, advancement for those diverse people in order to level out the relative differences or the disadvantages. Lastly, inclusion is often linked to the social inclusion. Several other questions can be also raised as an extension to the topic being discussed, such as why it is important to discuss issues on diversity, integration and inclusion in the Central Europe. Is it something that only happens in Europe or any other countries? It is a subject of question to be, this is a question that is so urgent. Maybe one reason could be that due to the discrimination since very long time. According to European Union Commission report, over 1 in 2 Europeans, around 59%, believe that the discrimination is because of one's ethnic origin. The barriers of diversity, equity, and inclusion include the lack of awareness or support about the issue within the communities, the difficulties in identifying and reaching the students or the staffs from a target group, the lack of information or the training opportunities on the issues and the students and staff, lack of government support, also the lack of qualified staff to deal with these issues, lack of concrete activities to address the issues, and also the lack of strategic approach, to the topic. So the people should understand that the diversity leads to the international and the cultural exchange of ideas. It creates opportunities because the employees feel that they are welcomed, respected, and then they are also heard. A diverse and equal workplace encourages recruiting and or retaining the new talent or attracting new customers and increasing the profits. As a conclusion to my talk, I feel that in light to this all, we should promote, counsel, or mentor communities, provide accessible infrastructure, activities, ensure non-discrimination, provide financial support and language courses, offer recognition to the prior learning, intercultural communication training, and counseling. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranav, for all these wonderful ideas. Now I'm gonna ask Ria the same question because Ria, you do have previous experience living in the United States. So can you please tell us what good practices we can learn from them? Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what Pranav said again, but I would like to maybe focus diversity of what the issue in terms of companies that are working in STEM and working in neuroscience. That a lot of neuroscience is very limited to people who study medicine, for example, in Slovenia, and it's not very open to cross-disciplinary collaboration. And what I found that the way I entered neuroscience was because I volunteered in high school for Epileptica C. I found that early education programs that get students interested are very important, and not just to be medically focused, but also to be focused if you're going to study computer science, for example, that you can then work in neuroscience. I just wanted to emphasize that. And as I mentioned before, there's a huge problem in Slovenia with connecting with international people, both people who are in Slovenia that are internationals, but also outside of Slovenia. And I think a lot of that is because the education system is, could be better to promote international people to come to Slovenia and work in neuroscience and STEM. We obviously have all of our classes and all of our degrees in Slovenian, so that's a huge problem because Slovenian is quite a hard language to learn. So more international programs in the education, in more than just the medical field, but also in computer science, for example, would help us in multiple ways in the country. But I also believe that education outside of academic institutions is very important to increasing diversity. because academic institutions themselves are a barrier to diversity and inclusion. They're a major part of filtering people, basically, and limiting access. And so now that we're living in a post-COVID era where we can have webinars like this, where we can connect more, I feel that education in outside of academia that's open to more people, that people from different backgrounds can learn about neuroscience and can become active participants in the field, is really important for the private sector. Again, because we're creating technology that's going to impact the future of our lives, not just medical, but also, how we experience entertainment, for example, is going to change based on neuroscience discoveries and innovation. And if we don't have the right people in the room talking about this and suggesting it, it's going to amplify social issues that we're already facing, that we're talking about right now, in ways that we're not ready for. And that if we can't solve it now, technology and what we're innovating is not going to help. It's just going to be worse because we're just transferring one issue and amplifying it in the future. I think in the US, as you mentioned, the discussion's a bit more open, and there's a huge problem of diversity there as well, and inclusion, but the debate has started to be active, whereas in Europe we are still in the early stages of these issues being really openly discussed. And so I think ALBA network education programs and really opening it up to more people being able to participate are key solutions to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ria. I really could relate to many things that you said. So thanks again. Our next speaker is Aeste. I do have the same question for you, Aeste, because you can compare your experience in France and Lithuania. And please tell us what good practices can you tell us you learned in both countries?
So the first practice that I already mentioned as a clinician, that was one of the key factors why I ended up in France, was that opportunity to combine clinical and research activity. Another thing I believe that's more relevant for clinical research than for preclinical studies, but like not most, but some of Eastern Europe countries are very small. And our languages are also very small. And that means we don't have many validated tools like questionnaires. And it's very hard to do research there based on that. So this is a thing to think about, maybe combining countries together, working on that. And what's more relevant to equity, to gender, maybe equity, that I probably didn't notice when I was in Lithuania, but I noticed when I moved to France and could compare, is that there are no like personal favorism or changes, but the cultural thing in Lithuania is like, my mom used to tell me, if you want to compete on the same level with men, you have to be 3 times stronger. So that's a thing that's probably in a societal level, many people think about it, and somehow in subconscious that's pretty relevant. For example, in medicine, like 70% of students are females, but when you look at the heads of departments, 70% of them are males. So how does that happen statistically? It's pretty impossible. So that means that somehow males are provided more opportunities, like small opportunities, that they add up. So this is a thing to think about, to be conscious about, I think, because it's never a personal decision by somebody like I choose men, but it's just many small subconscious things that add up, and sometimes men end up to having better CVs and more opportunities.
Thank you, Aiste. I actually recommend everybody to go on ALBA's website and to read our declaration, and you might find some answers. So our next panelist is Lei Zhang from University of Vienna, who will tell us his view on the same question: what can be done to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in Eastern Europe.
So hi again, and I'd like to use one example to answer this question. So as I mentioned earlier, I had kind of the biggest culture shock when I first moved to Europe. And then I believe that I'm not the first and also not the last person who had to face this kind of challenges. So because I'm from China originally, and I noticed and realized that as more and more Chinese researchers come to Europe to do their PhD and to complete their postdoc trainings, and I realized that many of them, or many of us, we have encountered the same challenge and then even troubles adjusting ourselves to the entire new environment. And many of them, for us, even had to suffer some mental problems because of the vast differences. So a few years back, and a few junior researchers, including myself, so we established the Chinese Association for Psychology and the Brain Sciences, so the CAPBS. It's kind of a bottom-up, loosely organized organization, but it's kind of organization there, and to bring together all of the Chinese researchers in psychology and neuroscience in Europe to listen, to help, to support, and to possibly also collaborate with each other. And we also have annual conferences. So besides all of the scientific content, like all of the other conferences, we always have a whole day session, so dedicated to sharing experiences regarding cultural difference, peer support, career development, women in science, and also personal growth. And don't get me wrong here. So we are talking about diversity in Europe, not about China, but our organization of CAPBS is a kind of, I think, is a good example to address diversity, equality, and inclusion. It applies to Chinese, of course, but a similar organization might also be easily applied to other cultures and communities. So in short, I think besides all of the effort from individuals, from institutions, such bottom-up organization like ours, CAPBS, could largely help with the diversity, the DEI issues in Europe and also beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Lei. Great to hear that. Now my question, the same question is addressed to Michael Olbatowski, who is at the University of Warsaw in Poland.
Thank you very much once again. I think that I can dedicate my, how would I put it now, my ability to cope in Europe to my colleagues and supervisors. And why I say this is because they've been able to offer quality support, and that would answer the question on what can be done on individual level. Because on individual level, I think individuals should be willing to help others. They should be willing to cooperate with others. You know, you could go to somebody and say, I don't understand what's written here. Can you please translate it for me? Or can you please? And the person looks, it's like 2 pages. And the person could, you know, tell you, okay, yes, I would love to, but just give me some time or something, or just agree. And the person could make you feel like, come on, you're just disturbing me, you know? And so there are 2 ways to react to that. And so if individuals can try to support and help those around them, it will go a long way in encouraging them, because international students spend more time with colleagues, you know, so colleagues play a huge role in supporting them. Supervisors, they play a huge role in supporting them. Then another thing that I feel individuals can do is to participate in diversity programs, because individuals can also help others by being part of programs that try to help others. For example, this show, this particular program, sorry, it helps to broaden people's perspective, help people see the challenges that people are experiencing, and help them to adjust their behavior towards others or towards foreigners. So I think this is very important on individual level. Then on institutional level, I think my institution has actually done quite a lot that I have really enjoyed and benefited from. I'll give an example. Now, up till now, for the past few months, I have been enjoying a free language course for the past few months. So I have been learning a new language. I have been growing, you know, at no cost. And it's from a unit organized by the institution. Also, the institution also have a welcoming point that I have explored, because when I had to make some applications or documentations regarding my stay, I had to consult this welcome point to ask questions, and they were able to help me. So I think institutions can establish more of these support groups, and that would help international students or foreign students to cope easily. And finally, I think on a societal level, I think members in the society can be encouraged to not to just rely on stereotypes about a particular group of people or a particular set of people. They can be made to understand that there's still a huge role on individual basis. So you don't say, okay, I cannot lend my apartment, I cannot give out my apartment to this person, because this person is this kind of person or is from this particular place. They should be willing to, rent out apartment. They should be willing to treat every individual with respect and dignity. I think that way it would help and encourage foreigners to migrate, and it will help their study period entirely as a whole, and they would not have much challenges or much difficulties as it is now. So those are just my own opinion.
Thank you, Michael, so much for so many useful tips. I really appreciate it. Now, I'm going to ask Stephanie the same question. Stephanie? Is Stephanie here? Did we lose her, maybe? Seems to me that we lost Stephanie. So in the meantime, until Stephanie is back, I appreciate everybody who is sending questions. So I'm going to read several questions. From Nicole, the question is, thanks a lot for sharing your experience and thoughts. If you don't mind, I don't have a question to the panelists, but to all women in this event, I have founded an initiative to determine factors impacting on women's career progression in STEM, and I would like to invite all women to participate in a survey. So feel free to check these. There is a link. Question to all of you, to all panelists, from Ferhad is, thanks for sharing your experience. I just want to ask if one of you experienced social isolation for any reason, language, cultural differences, and how did you deal with that? We already talked a little bit about that, but if anybody would like to share more, please go ahead.
Let me just say one thing in response to that. I think one way to deal with that, because it depends on what challenge, it depends on what problem. I think one way to deal with that is to be involved, to get to understand the people, to get to understand, like I mentioned earlier, I initially thought people were just being disrespectful. You don't greet, you just don't say anything. I greet you, just don't respond. I didn't even know that sometimes they didn't even expect me to greet because they are just in their own space, so it's the culture, privacy. So sometimes when you understand the culture of the people, when you interact more, when you engage more with people, you get to understand the system as a whole. Then secondly, I think is to get, there are support groups, I believe, in a number of places. If you can search or try to find these support groups, that would help you cope with your stay. I think it works so much, and not just even support groups outside within your institution, but also support groups in the society. There are support group, religious groups, or whatever group. You could just participate, get involved in their programs and activities, and you would get the needed support that you need. I think that's just a bit of my own advice.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm glad to say that Stephanie is back. So Stephanie, can you please tell us your view on what needs to be done in Eastern and Central Europe to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yes, thank you so much. Well, so as a lot of you have noticed and mentioned as well, I guess in general in the world, it is inclusion in this case for women, also very few women in high positions or in lab leaders, etc. So I think what is important more, and I think in my experience in the Charles University, they are doing very well, that what we need to reinforce is the leader positions. And then from that, I guess, not only women, also people that have new experiences and that are also open to receive more people and to, in a way to say it, like to renovate the system that they have been working through all the years. That is a paradigm that is always been done like this, and it will keep going like this. So, for example, as I said, in the Charles University, and I want to remark this because we have said like, okay, maybe this needs to be done or not, but what is my institution doing? And is that they are opening a lot for foreign students since masters till the postdocs and PhD positions. They are doing a lot of what you have said, a lot of support for the languages, for mental counseling, for psychology, etc. Precisely for these cases where the students or where the foreign workers feel isolated. And of course, it also has to do with oneself. What do you want? Do you want to? I mean, I know people, they don't even learn the language, or they don't even bother to go out of the foreign bubble that they live in. And that's also, I think, that we as foreigners, we should approach more consistently. Like Michael said, for example, I did some Spanish conversations group for free in the library, and I got to know a lot of people like that from the uni, from outside, from society, etc. As I said, for example, in the case of the Charles University, Dr. Milena Kralishkova, for example, she's running to become a rector of the university. So I think that's quite a lot or it says a lot when it comes to, okay, change paradigms. She is also a very open person, as well, I can say in my experience, the PI that I have, Karel Ježek. And as well, another thing is how to attract as well more people. In my case, that I am also moving to another position, is also the economy of the country. Yeah, and also I guess the institutions are also doing good when they offer you more as a person and also as a woman, because we all know the labs or the institutions must comply with a quota for women and for people with disabilities, etc. So I guess it's not only fulfilling that because of a quota, but because we want that. But as well, one thing that my boss said, I was also the first PhD student that was foreigner in the Czech Republic, in his lab, and I applied for a grant, and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna get it because I'm the woman and I am the foreigner and I'm on the first year of the PhD. And I had also all these prejudices in my mind as being a woman and from another country. So I think we must be ready to overcome those prejudices, and of course, with help, the other factors that I mentioned are important for me, we can really push that as well. For example, in the Charles University, we have an ambassador program, and that is also very good, that we as a foreigners and students, we give some feedback to our institution, to our leaders, that okay, we need this, and we see these needs from certain groups. For example, the Indian community, the Korean community, the Mexican community, etc. Because of course that helps to have more inclusion, more equity, and of course to diversify the system that we are working in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We do have another question from Alicia. To all panelists, what do you think is the most common factor preventing people from outside Central Eastern Europe who would potentially be interested in performing scientific training here from applying for PhD or postdoc positions? Yes, very good question. Who would like to answer? Do we have anybody?
I can answer. I can start, and then others can add. Well, in Slovenia, we're very small, and our language is very specific, and it's very hard to learn. And we do have a lot of people who come from Macedonia, for example, who do enter to Slovenia and who learn the language quite quickly because it's similar. And so they integrate very well. But for foreigners, we don't have a lot of programs in English, for example. And a lot of that is because we don't, I think we can do a lot more to connect with more universities in Europe to create joint programs that are in English. For example, we do have a Central European master's program in cognitive science that was that recently got launched, and it is in English, but the first year of it, which in Slovenia, is actually in Slovene, and then the second year is in English, which means that there aren't a lot of there's very few international people who can then apply for this program and join the the research cadre that we have. And so I think that programs in academia that are in English and that are maybe with joint universities in the area, Central Europe could connect with each other and have programs like this. And I think the research and the collaboration that would come out of these programs would really benefit everybody, and not to have it just limited to citizens, but also to international people, so that we have groups and teams that are have a broader point of view and that can really look at more things at once. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ria, so much. We do have quite a long question from Robert Kuba Filipovsky. I will try to summarize it. The question is, what is the answer of the panelists to the critique of equity, summarized in 3 points, that is not good for science when ultimately merit becomes secondary or non-decisive factor, and it is not good for perception of science when scientists focus not on scientific facts, but on their group belonging, and promoted individuals will be perceived by peers as not scientific achievers, but rather as privileged members of groups due to not merit-based factors. Very complex question. Do we have anybody who would like to answer, or at least try to answer that? It's a quite complex question.
If no one else wants to, I can try to answer a little bit. I guess what I'm getting from the question, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robert Kuba, is that that as I was saying, like, it's not just to meet a quota, to have a certain number of women, certain number of people with disabilities, etc., etc. Once, and I didn't finish this idea, I asked my boss, why don't you hire more women for the PhD positions and so? And he was like, well, if there are no women who want to apply for this, what can I do? Yeah, and it's the same that I think, at least in my case, the leaders, I don't think this is like a problem. I think the leaders, and maybe you will correct me or not, Professor Zeljka, is that when a person is worth it, the chance. And I don't think you are biased because, okay, I don't know, I need to comply with this quota for my lab, and I don't think that the institutions that we are, and maybe I'm talking or speaking for everyone here, maybe you will correct me, but I don't think that's a problem to say in higher institutions, but I don't know. Yes, I think always what the group leader or what the leaders of the institutions, they look for is that really the groups or the people who wants to also be in certain position or certain groups, they are also diverse. But I think, I don't know, I think this is not such a big problem. This in my case, because of course, if I think my boss was right, okay, I want to include more women, I want to include more people with disability or from this minority group. But if there are no applicants for that, okay, we need to see what is the problem. Maybe they are not getting the information, but when one institution makes everything open and, you know, promoting and so on, but there are no people of this or certain groups, what can you do? I hope I have made some point. Thank you.
Great, Stephanie, thank you so much. I couldn't have said it better. Since we are close to the closing up this session, I would like just to thank you all for participation. My co-moderator Dora Reglodi will say several sentences, but before I say goodbye, I will just thank you all for these inspiring stories. I think we just opened some important questions. This is just the beginning. As Ria said, in Europe, we still have a lot to talk about. And at the end, if I can summarize it in few words, it would be proactive. If you see behavior that is not inclusive, just get involved and be example of the change you want to see. Please avoid biased language, try to reach out to new people, create collaborative environment, promote diverse ideas and take actions. And also, I think that the best time to implement these changes is right now. Thank you all. Dora, would you like to wrap up the session, please?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I was traveling and I just arrived, but I was listening all the way. So thank you so much all for this wonderful discussion and contribution. Thank you. And thank you, Zeljka, for doing all the job.
No, thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you all panelists and all participants. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Please go to ALBA website and become our member. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.